Revenge, Redemption, and Unlikely Lessons, a family story. This is the story of betrayal, healing, and personal growth within a family. What starts as a series of painful, life-altering experiences gradually transforms into a tale of redemption, as family members, despite their deep flaws, work to heal, rebuild trust, and redefine relationships. Along the way, unexpected lessons are learned, and the journey becomes as much about the struggle for justice as it is about moving on and finding peace. After a long absence, I came back to an inbox filled with 500 messages and 130 unread personal messages. Please don't message me anymore. I just can't keep up with it all. If you messaged me and I ignored you, I apologize. I decided to take a break for at least a year as my posts were clearly not lifting the spirits of my family, so I stayed away from my account for a while. But recently, my brother Dan saw a video that was eerily similar to my story. The only difference was that in the video, the author had a twin sister instead of a daughter-in-law. But the plot was painfully familiar. Self-centered, arrogant parents who had treated their son like dirt, making him homeless. The brother or sister was the golden child of the family, a secret favoritism hidden from the rest of the relatives. The sister, in her early 20s, with 3 kids and a 4th on the way, and her eldest son attacking the author's family. And of course, an attempt to take the house from the author. The similarities were so strong that some of the phrases used were even identical. My parents and brother were furious, and it bothered me too to see that video. We'd all been working hard to move past the issues and forget what we had been through because of the former daughter-in-law. You can imagine how much effort it took for me to let go of the old grudges. But in the past year, my parents and Dan have taken more positive steps than in my entire life before. I love my nephews and nieces dearly. So, author, congratulations. Now my whole family needs therapy again. And yes, my family knows I'm writing this post. All right, that's settled. Now, on to what's in the headline. Some didn't believe that Dan would keep his word, but he did. He got my camper back a few months ago, and it's in great condition. Dan took excellent care of it, and even thoroughly cleaned it before returning it. He and our father resealed the roof while it was with them. Inside, the camper looks just as good as when I lived in it, and now it even smells of pine. While Dan was living in my camper, there was a little drama with a neighbor. She started yelling over the fence about the camper and threatening to call the police. My brother and father responded roughly, but then explained that Dan was living in the camper so his son could have the bedroom. The neighbor was still upset, but stopped making threats. Later, my father spoke to her husband, who was furious about her behavior. He apologized for her and said Dan was doing the right thing by giving his room to his son. Maybe the neighbor also congratulated Dan on finally getting rid of the former daughter-in-law, saying he had always been afraid to say it before, but she was truly a horrible woman. We all now fully agree on that. So the neighbors are no longer an issue.
Dan and our father managed to save up some money and bought a larger camper, which they placed in my parents' backyard. It even required my pickup truck to transport it. But we managed. Honestly, this is the best Dan can afford right now, while he's still paying off the debts his ex-wife left him. After that, he'll need to think about his children's future. He might live in this camper for the next 10 years, but it's still better than being in a marriage with his ex. She definitely won't be able to save up for the kids' college, unless it's for the child she had with her lover. I admit, Dan's camper is better than mine. It's newer, larger, and has a separate bathroom, which mine doesn't have. Though Dan hardly uses his bathroom, as it turned into a storage room since the toilet and shower are very cramped. When he needs to go, he just uses the house. Dan has also equipped his camper with nice amenities, like a flat-screen TV with streaming access and video games. He says he now feels a sense of home, even though it's parked in my parents' yard. And after his divorce, he's much happier. Yes, yes, yes. Dan told me he plans to buy his own pickup truck one day to move the camper around himself. But for now, he can't afford it because of the kids, and he sticks with his minivan. So his camper sits quietly in place, while mine has returned to my backyard where it belongs. It's not idle, though.
I temporarily rented it out to my cousin, who moved to our area for work. He stayed there for about a month before finding a place of his own. Otherwise, the camper serves as a guest house. Relatives stay in it when they visit to avoid paying for a motel. My nephew has slept there a few times, just for fun. His sisters didn't get as excited about it. For my nephew, it's the closest thing to camping, which is also what it was for me, unfortunately. I bought the camper, not for camping, but for living. As for my parents, they've gone through therapy. My mother started taking medication for her mental health and fully acknowledged her terrible mistakes from the past. She also recognized the favoritism she showed her children. My father is also aware of it. In general, it's still a bit awkward with me, but he's actively attending church and working hard to restore the family's reputation. Dan has significantly cut down on his drinking because his stress has greatly decreased. He even started working out and is in excellent shape now. Recently, he told me that his ex saw a photo of him on social media after he lost 20 pounds and called him to compliment him, but he didn't fall for it. As for holidays, my parents, brother, and nieces came to my Christmas party last year, along with other relatives who came last time as well. Everything went great, except no one could stay overnight in my rooms, since I rent them out now. Both of my tenants also went to celebrate with their families. All in all, everything went perfectly. We didn't invite the former daughter-in-law, and even if she showed up uninvited, she wouldn't have been able to due to the restraining order. In any case, she didn't try to spend time with the kids much. At best, she saw them a couple of times a month, and she didn't even send gifts for Christmas or birthdays after she was caught cheating. The kids were initially upset, but now they've just stopped caring about it. The former daughter-in-law decided to go back to living as though she were a single woman, despite having a baby waiting at home. But nothing good came of it, and life gave her a hard slap in the face. On New Year's Eve, she went out to party. On her way home, the police stopped her and arrested her for drunk driving. They towed her car to the impound lot. While she was being arrested, she called Dan, begging him to get the car back. Dan refused, telling her she was the one who caused the problem and should fix it herself. Of course, Dan had driven drunk in the past, so his position was somewhat hypocritical. But considering everything she put him through, I understand him perfectly. A woman, probably one of her flying monkeys, called Dan and started scolding him for being a terrible person. I think it was the same woman who called me some time ago. Dan didn't bother with her and told her everything about his ex's infidelities, what happened during the divorce, and how he didn't care about his ex anymore after she left him with huge debts and stopped caring for their children. The flying monkey never called again, and we still don't know who she was. The former daughter-in-law went to court and pleaded guilty to drunk driving. Dan knew about it because she called him to tell him that due to the violation, she wouldn't be able to see her other children for a while. The court ordered her to take 6 months of DUI courses. Her driver's license was suspended, and she was strictly forbidden to drink alcohol, which upset her the most. I've heard about those courses. They regularly conduct random urine tests for alcohol content. And when her driver's license is reinstated, they'll install an alcohol lock on her car, making it impossible for her to drive if she has any alcohol in her system. The insurance rates will also skyrocket because of her violation record. The former daughter-in-law isn't very happy about this, but I don't feel sorry for her. I never drive drunk. Unfortunately, that's all I know about her these days, as she's barely been in touch with Dan anymore. Most likely, she'll stop reaching out altogether, except in extreme cases. I have no idea what's going on with her parents or her child from her lover, and Dan doesn't know either. But we do know a bit about one person.
Do you remember the former daughter-in-law's lover, the talkative guy?
He's opened his social media again, but it seems like he doesn't even acknowledge the existence of the former daughter-in-law or their child. Dan tried to message him, but he blocked him immediately. In short, this guy is a jerk who behaves as though he's a saint. But in a way, we're thankful for him, because he's the reason the former daughter-in-law is no longer part of our family. That's all for now. This text has been translated, adjusted, and cleaned up for smooth voiceover with a focus on emotional depth and clarity. It follows a consistent narrative flow, removing inappropriate language and making it suitable for a voiceover in 11 labs.